Today our topic is post-Second World War Japan. The lecture has three parts. Number 1, Japan surrendered to the Allied powers. Number 2, American occupation of Japan. And 3, the Japanese response to the entire process. Let us begin with the first part, that is Japan surrendered to the Allied powers. In September 1940, Japan signed a tripartite Axis treaty with Germany and Italy. Japan participated in Second World War against the Allied powers, being an Axis power. In fact, by that time the Second World War had already broken out in September 1939. In early 1940s, powers like the USA and the USSR joined the Allied forces in the Second World War. The Axis powers, comprising the powers like Germany, Italy and Japan, were on the verge of defeat in 1945. Towards the end of April, Mussolini was killed. Mussolini was the fascist ruler of Italy. On 30th April, Adolf Hitler, the Nazi leader of Germany, committed suicide. On 8th May, Germany surrendered to the Allied powers. In July 1945, the partners of the so-called Grand Alliance, that is United States of America, Great Britain and Soviet Union, participated in the Potsdam Conference to discuss the future of the Far East. The Potsdam Conference issued a proclamation. In fact, the proclamation had been issued by Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister, and Harry Truman, the American President. The proclamation stated that Japan should renounce war immediately and submit to the Allied powers. The proclamation stated, quote, "The alternative for Japan is prompt and utter destruction," unquote. But on 28 July, Japan refused to comply with the Potsdam Proclamation and decided to continue the war. Japan's attitude was actually one of unbending defiance. American response was prompt and immediate. On 6th August, the USA dropped a new kind of bomb known as the atomic bomb in the Japanese city of Hiroshima. The entire city of Hiroshima was destroyed and about 66,000 civilians were killed. The Emperor of Japan, Hirohito, immediately declared, quote, "No matter what happens to my safety, we must put an end to this brutal war as quickly as possible so that the tragedy will not be repeated," unquote. But the tragedy repeated once again. On 9th August, the USA against bombed Japan, and with that similar atomic bomb, the Japanese city of Nagasaki was entirely destroyed and devastated. About 40,000 civilians were killed. Next day, Japan offered to surrender on a single condition, that the Japanese emperor should not be humiliated and dishonored by any means. The Allied forces and the Allied powers accepted the proposal and accepted the condition. On 15th August, Japanese Emperor Hirohito declared through a radio broadcast that the Second World War has come to an end. On 2nd September 1945, an armistice had been signed between the Japanese diplomats on one hand and General Douglas MacArthur on behalf of the Allies. Douglas MacArthur was the US general. In fact, the Second World War thus came to an end, and one of the most brutal and barbaric phases of human history actually came to an end with the signing of this armistice. Now we are coming to the second part of our discussion, the American occupation of Japan. The decade following the Second World War left certain far-reaching effects in the internal developments and internal history of Japan. In fact, these changes actually shaped the future of Japan. Japan remained under the Allied occupation, better to say remained under the American occupation between 1945 and 1952, that is for 7 years. Japan fell prey to the brutal American bombing and brutal American attack. At the same time, the United States of America came as the savior of Japan during the post-war situations. The Second World War was followed by the Cold War, and there was a very embittered relationship between the capitalist bloc under the leadership of United States of America and the socialist bloc under the leadership of Soviet Union. The prime concern of the US policymakers was to curb the influence of revolutionary communism and socialism at any cost. The USA was apprehensive of the fact that as Japan was very much disturbed and devastated by the US bombing, Japan could join hands with the Soviet Union and Japan could also join the socialist bloc under the leadership of Soviet Union. Hence, the main objective of the US occupiers was to strengthen the roots of parliamentary democracy in Japan. In the words of Andrew Gordon, a famous historian on Japan, quote, "For nearly 7 years, the Japanese people faced the unprecedented experience of occupation by a foreign power, wielding the authority to rewrite laws, restructure the economic and political system, and even seek to redefine culture and values," unquote. The occupation army under the leadership of General Douglas MacArthur was entrusted with the responsibility of reconstruction of Japan in the post-war situation. Theoretically, it was an international arrangement and an international process, but in essence and practically, United States of America occupied the entire Japanese land. General Douglas MacArthur received the instructions from Washington. Douglas MacArthur was given the title of Supreme Commander of Allied Powers or SCAP. In no time, the entire bureaucratic administration under MacArthur became synonymous with himself, and the bureaucratic administration was also termed as SCAP. The initial American strategy, they have been summed up by the historians in 2 words, that is demilitarization and democratization. The occupiers in Japan wanted to demilitarize Japan fully and they wanted to strengthen the roots of democracy in Japan. There were 2 aspects of this occupation. By demilitarization, the SCAP disbanded the Japanese army. The entire army and navy of Japan had been disbanded on 30th November 1945. Soldiers brought back from outside were stripped of their military powers. Steps were also taken against those who supported the war effort during the Second World War, particularly the very oppressive police force of Japan, branded by the Western critics as thought police, were disbanded. Furthermore, the occupiers took certain steps to remove those who were in power in Japan during the Second World War. The important government officials linked with the war efforts were also removed from their position between 1945 and 1948. Shinto religion as a state religion had been nullified. An international trial, better known as the Tokyo trial, also took place. The Tokyo trial, in fact, convicted many. By the Tokyo trial, 7 Japanese, including Marshal Tojo, had been executed. 17 others had been sentenced with life imprisonment by the Tokyo trial, which was in fact an international trial for war crime. The SCAP thought that a series of reforms were necessary to prevent the authoritarian rule in Japan and ensure certain political rights for the Japanese citizens. In October 1945, some rights of the people had been guaranteed, like the freedom of speech, freedom of press, and freedom to assemble. Thus, a new constitution became imperative. A new constitution had been promulgated in Japan with the American assistance in November 1946. Finally, this became effective in May 1947. This new constitution brought about some significant changes in Japan as far as laws were concerned. The post-war constitution curtailed the power of the Japanese emperor to an enormous extent. Basic human rights and civil liberties were ensured. People got freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, and freedom of religion as well. The new constitution also outlawed any discrimination on the basis of race, sex, or family origin, and so on and so forth. Equality between men and women had also been granted by the new constitution, and in every respect of life, the equality between men and women was ensured and guaranteed by the new constitution. The Article 9 of this new constitution declared that the Japanese people should renounce war as a sovereign right of the nation, and the Japanese should settle any international dispute in future through negotiations and discussions and never by using forces. The occupation reformers took certain important steps for the recovery of economy. The influence of the Zaibatsu families, such as the families like Mitsui, Sumitomo, Yasuda, Kawasaki, and others were removed. The Zaibatsu influence disappeared in Japan from the Japanese economic sphere. Even outside the orbit of the Zaibatsu family, many important industries and enterprises emerged in Japan. The land reforms were also very important because through the land reforms, the occupiers distributed the social and economic power at the rural level, and more important were the labor laws. The occupation administration granted some important rights. The workers and laborers in Japan got the right to form their trade unions. They also got the right to collective bargaining, and even they earned the right to strike. When such reforms were made, they were very much, the occupiers, occupation administration, and men in this cap were very much elated and exalted. They thought that these were the very important things which would accelerate the process of democratic vitality in Japan, but such enthusiasm was actually short-lived. Within a few days, it could be observed by the occupiers that many among the Japanese trade unionists had a left-wing tilt. Many of them even joined the Communist Party and embraced the Marxist ideology. The Americans and the American occupiers did not accept it. In 1950, communist labor leaders were removed from the trade unions in the so-called Red Purge. Significant reforms also took place in the sphere of education as well. The Ministry of Education of Japan was instructed by the American occupation officials to replace lessons for war and loyalty to the state by the lessons of democracy, peace, and republicanism. Wartime textbooks were thoroughly rewritten. Even the women were granted access to the universities, both private and public. Some of the policymakers in the USA, particularly in the Washington, some of the policymakers of Japan wanted to strip away the post of the emperor. They wanted that the post of emperor should not exist in Japan, and the post should be scrapped. But the Supreme Commander, General Douglas MacArthur, took a stern stand in this regard. He gave a strong message to the American mentors that if the Emperor Hirohito was stripped of his power, if he was forced to abdicate and he was brought under an international trial for war crimes, then the law and order problem of Japan would sharply deteriorated, and that will also affect the process of democratization and demilitarization in Japan. According to Andrew Gordon, MacArthur, along with his other SCAP officials, wanted to introduce in Japan something like an imperial democracy. The changes in Japan had been termed by another famous historian, John Fairbank, as a revolution from outside. During the occupation period, there were two policy shifts in Japan by the American occupiers. In 1948, there were certain economic reforms because the occupiers felt that without eradicating poverty, the roots of parliamentary democracy in Japan could not be strengthened. But there was another change in 1950 after the breaking out of the Korean War. The second shift came during the Korean War of 1950. The US concern turned from the occupation of Japan to the Korean crisis. As a result, decision making in Japan passed almost to the Japanese hands. However, a dispute over the Korean crisis broke out between the US administration and General Douglas MacArthur. In 1951, the US President Harry Truman had removed Douglas MacArthur from his post. Now, what was the nature of this occupation? Sharp controversies have arisen regarding the real nature of this American occupation of Japan during the post-war situation. Many Japanese historians as well as some American revisionist historians have termed that American occupation in Japan was very much excessive powers had been there. They argued that US exercise of power in post-war Japan was actually very excessive. The reverse course policies aimed at curbing the influence of communism negated many democratic reforms in post-war Japan, and Japan actually fell prey to zealous US anti-communist activities and propaganda. True that the occupation of America in Japan, the American occupiers helped to strengthen the democratic process in Japan. Japan had formed a democratic society thanks to American occupiers. But at the same time, another thing happened. The Japanese fell prey to rabid anti-communist propaganda of the United States of America. In fact, during the Cold War period, United States of America wanted to find in Japan a potential ally in the Far East which could confront the communist ideology. Despite overwhelming presence of the American power in occupied Japan, the elites as well as the ordinary people of Japan interpreted the reforms in accordance with their own positions and own views. With their experience, the continued presence of the foreign troops in Japanese cities, of censorship and of SCAP direction of the government only provided a negative reaction in Japan, and the Japanese citizens on many parts of the country did not like it. Furthermore, the SCAP ruled through the Japanese bureaucracy because they had some lack of communicative skill and language skill. This empowered the Japanese officials to maneuver the power, whether to resist or reshape the occupation directives. Land reforms initiated by the occupiers by SCAP in 1946 forced the landlords to sell their large size of arable lands, and they only kept family size small plots with them. As a result of the entire process, the prices of the land had a sharp decline. Furthermore, labor laws enacted by the SCAP rulers gave certain rights, even the right to strike and right to trade unionism, to the workers, but this was very much disturbing for the entrepreneurs and the business magnates in Japan. The entrepreneurs and employers became very much aggrieved over such labor laws. These CAP reformers did one thing very important, that is, they ensured the equality between men and women. Gender equality was a very important point of their reforms. Since 1920s, a group of Japanese women became vociferous for their certain demands, including the right to franchise. Bete Sarota, an American lady, spent her childhood in Japan, and she was also involved in the movement of the Japanese women. When in 1946 the new constitution was being promulgated, the CAP officials gave Bete Sarota the power to look after the equality issue, gender equality issue, and equality between the men and women. And Bete Sarota took this opportunity to ensure the essential equality of sexes in marriage and other legal matters pertaining to inheritance and family. The occupation process also encouraged the old guard Japanese conservative politicians to remain in the corridors of power. The communists, socialists and the left, they formed a very combative opposition, but they always remained in the minority. The US occupation in Japan continued from 1945 to 1952. In 1952, the US occupation came to an end. Immediately after the Second World War, the prime concern for the USA was to curb the influence of communism on one hand, and on the other to strengthen the democratic roots of Japan and prevent Japan from again turning into an authoritarian power. However, towards the end of 1940s, there were certain significant changes in the international scenario. There was Berlin blockade, then there was the Chinese Revolution leading to the formation of People's Republic of China, and finally the Korean War broke out in 1950. These incidents actually forced Americans to shift their policy in Japan. Once again, Joibatsu control over the economic sphere had been tried to be restored. Even in sometimes the occupation officials began to encourage the rearmament in Japan because they wanted to find in Japan a very potential source of alliance. They wanted to find in Japan a very potential ally who could fight the ideologies of revolutionary communism in the entire areas of the Far East. Once USA policymakers looked upon the labor agitations and the labor rights as progressive ones, but they looked them with certain benevolence. But as days passed, they saw that these were never the signs of democratic vitality, but they became the major source of problem and major source of disturbance in Japan. Now they considered the labor laws to be potentially dangerous. In fact, Cold War politics led the USA to have recourse to red purge, and that was perhaps the most dramatic example of the reverse course in United States of America, which the United States of America followed in Japan. To sum up things, after the Second World War, there was a crisis in the entire world. Already the Axis powers like Germany and Italy surrendered to the allied forces like Britain, France and America. Towards the end of the Second World War, Japan was devastated by the US bombing, but USA emerged as the savior of Japan and wanted to modernize Japan in their own way. The next 7 years, that is from 1945 to 1952, were the sole aim of the US occupiers were to strengthen the democratic roots in Japan, and in forcing the democratic reforms in Japan, they also tried so that the communist and left forces should not get strengthened, and this was the thing. USA had to adopt a reverse policy in Japan with the so called Red Purge. Thank you.